Graph the solution to the system of linear inequalities. So we have 3x minus y is less than or equal to 3, y is less than negative 1/4 x. So let's start with this first one. We have 3x minus y is less than or equal to 3. So this one, I'd solve it a couple different ways, but I'm kind of thinking whenever it's in this ax plus by equals c form, I usually like to just solve for the intercepts. So I know the y-intercept is where x equals 0, and the x-intercept is where y equals 0. So we put, let's do first 0 for x, so 3 times 0 minus y, we'll just do equals 3 for this part. So that cancels, I get negative y equals 3, or y equals a negative 3. So 0 and negative 3 is our first one, okay? Next we have 3x minus, this time we'll put in 0 for y to find the x-intercept. So minus 0 equals 3. So 3x equals 3, divide by 3 on each side, and x equals 1. So let's graph our points. We've got 0, negative 3 for our first point. We've got 1, 0 for our second point. So we're going to have a line through these points. Okay, now we need to consider our inequality. Because it's an inequality, we need to decide, is this line going to be dotted or solid? Well, because this one has an equal to underneath, that tells us this line is going to be solid. Let's see if I sure have a hard time drawing straight lines through here on the computer. So we're going to be about like that. So, last but not least, we want to do our shading. And so since it doesn't cross through the point 0, 0, we're going to test that point. So we're going to say, okay, 0, 0, let's plug it in. We have 3 times 0 minus 0 is less than or equal to 3. So basically 0 is less than or equal to 3. Is that true? Is 0 smaller than 3? Well, yes it is. And so we'll have kind of temporary lines right there. All right, let's look at our next equation. And I'm actually going to switch colors for this one so we can see easier. So we have y is less than negative 1/4 x. So notice this one is actually in the slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b form. So there's no b, which tells us b is just 0 in this case. So we'll have our y-intercept is just 0. Our slope is negative 1/4, so we go down 1, right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have our line. We can even go up 1, left 4. As long as we're going negative 1 direction, we're good. Okay, now we need to consider the inequality. Since it's less than but not equal to, this one is actually going to be a dotted line. Okay, next we need to choose a point to test. Now in this case we cannot choose 0, 0, and that's because the line passes through that point. However, we could choose the point right here, which would be 0, 1. So 0 for x, 1 for y. So let's try that. So we put in 1 for y is less than negative 1/4 times 0. So basically 1 is less than 0. Is that true? Well, no, it's not true. 1 is not smaller than 0, so we don't shade that side. We're going to shade the opposite side. Now remember, these shadings were just temporary, and so our final shading is going to be only the place between the lines that both of them are shaded. And so we can see in this case, it's just this area. So this is the one we're going to want to shade really dark. That is our final shaded area. Everything else should either be erased or just make it really dark in that spot. So on this type of problem, I would recommend just doing one line at a time. If you have different colors, it can really help when you're solving the problem to have the different colors. So, and then make sure, so graph it regularly, make sure you decide if it's dotted or solid, and then you need to do your shading as well as the final shading where it overlaps.